I want to have an impact in where I live, where I work, where I would like to see people happy. We are having a conflict of urbanization and the new trends, what we call the new urbanism. And we are already established, we have our cultural, historical aspects that we cannot ignore. So we are at war with space or spatial needs. And this is something different in every city, in every country, but there's always an intersecting aspect, which is the human being, the human aspect, the human welfare. So this blends in very well. Whatever we are doing, we are discussing, it's really not about the animals, the snakes. We love wildlife, we love nature, we love green, but all of it is focusing on the human aspect. So the new urbanism, amidst the current urbanization, especially in the developing world, requires some tactical thinking and facing this war with the required sobriety and seriousness, which we need to work on. So we have a war going on space. Over there, Professor Winnie, I think you know that is Nairobi just a few years ago. And right now, it looks completely different on the extreme right corner there. Down here is Kampala. The other side is Kuritiba. And you see, everything is different. We don't want to look like other cities. Can we look like our city? Can we look like the Kampala we want? You want to look like Dubai? Are you sure? Are you sure you can look like Dubai? Can you look like Ginger? Can we look like Fort Porto? Can Fort Porto look like Fort Porto? So we need to start thinking about what city we want without losing the identity of our places. Because the world will be so boring. Imagine if Kampala was like Dubai, Nairobi is like Dubai, you go to New York City, you go to Beijing, Nanjing. That's not the world. We would like to see heterogeneity in the cities. And that we have to protect, by the way. We must protect. We want to see new urbanism, but we must protect. So we need to set a spatial vision. If I asked Ginger, what is your vision for the next 20 years? I'm going to talk about Ginger because I've seen them here. They are in front of me and I've been interacting with them closely. What vision do you have? See, this is where we have to go back to. Do you want a city that has land uses that don't have a communication or interaction or relationship? Do you want a city where everything is everywhere? Where you will be driving and you are sharing space with a cow, you are walking into a shop, you are sharing space with a goat? Do you want a city where you are brought down and you feel you are really not a human being, but probably you are a cow? Because you are in a space where the cow is too, you know? In the CBD, keep asking, are these cows going to shop with us or what? They are close by the shops. We were coming from Iganga recently, and they were completely next to a set of sofas. So, and the human beings were also next to them. So who is actually going to buy the sofa? You know? So do you want a city that has industry, offices, residential areas, services, all of them in a disorganized way? Or you want to have them organized and they have a relationship in terms of accessibility? Those lines you're seeing, they are connecting points or accessing land uses. Every land use is useless if it cannot be accessed. In fact, Ronald Lima mentioned a lot about accessibility. And I'm happy that this presentation is going on now after his and also Afande's. Because we have competition on space. We have transportation competing with housing, competing with industrial developments, competing with markets, tourism, All those, we need them, right? So if you want to manage competition, you must appropriate, allocate, and dictate. This is what we do even in our homes. If you don't protect each child, there are always bullies. Huh? There are always bullies that will want to take all the space, all the food. So this competition, if we leave it alone, that's what you will start seeing happening, especially in the developing world, because the housing demand is high. Transportation network, UNRWA is very busy, and we still need more. And then we also need to preserve the environment. We were in Mbarara and someone asked, we have a wetland in the middle of the city. You want us to leave it like that? To keep the wetland in the middle of a city? Which city has a wetland in the middle of it? We have the same case in Arua, the Barifa forest. It's in the city. And people are asking, why do we need a forest in the city? You know? So you have competition. People think the city should have skyscrapers. The forest should go. So that competition can be unhealthy if it's not coordinated. And it's worse now with urbanization. And now what we are seeing is that we are competing for space for land uses and how to access them. So that's how we are seeing the different modes coming up. I think you heard about the electric cars, the cable cars, the trams, the trains, access to land uses. The trucks have to move, so different modes. If one mode that is expected to be there is not there, there is competition for another mode to take over. You agree? And we are experiencing this. This is Mpondwe, Bwera. My brother, Honorable Alex, we know this place very well. And it's growing really fast. But you can see where there's more green is absolutely still very rural. Where it's crowded, it's urban. The accessibility needs in the rural part are different from the accessibility needs in the urban part. So this difference we must understand. But the two, rural and urban, have a communication. People stay in Mpondwe and maybe work in Bwera. Maybe they even work in Kasese town. So that connection has to happen. This is our greater Kampala area. We are seeing Nansana, Wakiso, Kampala. You can see the densities there. How is that density related to where it's not yet dense? And how are all those densities connected? How do you move from Nansana to Kampala? Which alternatives do you have? And how do you get to your stop if you are using public transport? And how is the condition of the road, whichever mode you are using? So the bigger picture, which I'm now zeroing down to the smaller picture, is very, very important. Because the land use activity, the density, the competition for road space, seriously, do we still say our roads are narrow as an excuse? Or should we say our roads are crowded? You have the charcoal stove there, you have the animals, you have the fish food, you have the walkway, you have the truck, you have the private car, you have the boda, you have myself, the rider, bicycle rider, and our colleague over there. I was so proud of you. Keep riding. So you keep seeing competition for road space. What does this give us? Road hierarchy, road user hierarchy. Road user hierarchy actually exacerbates the problem that we have on our roads. The Magurukumi feels more important than the, I don't know if they're at the same level with the bus, but the bus feels they're higher than the Costa. The Costa is bigger than the taxi. The taxi pushes the boda pushes the bicycle rider. There is no respect. Because everybody must survive for that road space. And that's not healthy. We call it the road user hierarchy. And we have the passenger syndrome, stranded passenger syndrome. Who has observed this? Passengers in the morning going to work, stuck, desperate, taxis are full, borders are full. They cannot do anything. This one, we call it stranded passenger syndrome. And the more inadequacies we have in our public transport, the higher the syndrome. You are now seeing them on the Northern Bypass, on the expressway, stranded passenger syndrome. So this comes with a lot of urbanization changes. Now, when we have that fight for road space, we get what we call erosion of civic pride. So you have a community of people who are unhappy because their accessibility needs have not been met. They spend over 40% of their incomes to access places. How much is that? If you compute it, you're earning 600,000. And monthly you are paying 40% of that for transport. And now that percentage we need to check. For our case now, it must be 60% for just transport. Because things have changed, even the fuel costs have had that impact. But even if there was no fuel cost impact, there was still what? A problem. So this loss of civic pride, you will see human beings in a city as if they are forced to belong there. This is a disease for city managers. Because you are planning for people who don't like their city because their city is not giving them the human dignity that they deserve to have. That's why they will drink water and drop that bottle anywhere. After all, they lost the civic what? Pride. This is a big disease, by the way. It requires total treatment by all stakeholders. And I'm afraid we are experiencing it now. Our most developing, the cities of the developing world are experiencing it. It also tarnishes the international image of a city. You arrive at Entebbe International Airport. What do you see as you get closer to Kitoro? As you get closer to Chibuye, what are you seeing? The international image, you know? And when you lose the international image, it affects so much. You go for an international organization conference and everybody is feeling so high, proud of themselves for you, are remembering how you fight every morning to reach work, junctions, wars, you know? So this civic pride we need to address. How we look at street space in urban planning. We look at mobility options that you can wake up in the morning and you say, today, I don't feel good. I should not drive. I think I need to ride. I've not exercised the last 2 weeks. Or maybe I should catch a train, or I should take a bus. Mobility options is very, very important. But what is more important is it should be people-friendly. Seriously, you sit in a taxi, your dress gets torn. The shoe goes through the... You are getting out of the taxi, you are falling, you don't understand, but the heel is stuck in the hole there. So what is that? It is not people-friendly. You are going to access a bus stop or a taxi stage. Someone grabs your phone, your handbag. You know, this is a public space. You want to sit there and wait for the taxi. You can't throw your rubbish anywhere. There is no bin. You can't sit. It's dirty. People are peeing there. You know, it's not attractive, and that's a public space. Then people want to move as they talk, as they listen, and look around. Isn't that human nature? Here in Kampala, you try to look around as you move. You'll be surprised. So as you move, you need to be, what do they always tell us? Afande, that is your word. Be vigilant. Because the public spaces are not attractive. So you end up being vigilant, which is not correct. Spaces should allow you to move freely, interact, and stop, say hello to a friend, and that is accessibility that we are talking about. Now, when we talk about inclusiveness, For me, when I look at this picture, I see inclusiveness. But in another way, in the negative direction. This is negative. The economists, what do we call it? It's disutility, isn't it? This is the negative direction of inclusiveness. How do you have this truck here? You have, these bodas are not empty, by the way, they have passengers. That's public transport. You have taxis there, then you have this part here, which is supposed to be a walkway, by the way, where you're seeing water there. So that inclusiveness, we need to work about it. It's dangerous. It is both ugly and also unsafe. And some solutions are not in terms of infrastructure design. No. Like this truck, if there is a policy for it, it should not even be there. But what we see is that the truck can also go through a residential area. You find trucks in Bugolobi in the middle, they are doing what? What are you doing there? You find a bicycle rider on the expressway? No. You should not be there. You should not be there. A pedestrian jumping on the expressway, but there's a reason why that also happens, which we are going to see in the next few slides. So, there is a problem of demand and supply, and this we have discussed it with the Ministry of Works. The demand for public transport is much higher than the supply of it. The quality of the supply is poor, the quantity is low. And people have to move, have to access places. What do you see at this junction? I think we all know where this is. This was taken just like 8 months ago. Kitugum House Junction. We all have experienced that. Which message do you get there? The need for accessibility cannot be stopped. You cannot stop it. You can only control and regulate it because people have to access places. So you start seeing our solutions like this. I think we have also all seen this. It's a proposal by KCCA to have a border exclusion zone, which is okay. There's a reason why it is being proposed. Road safety, quality of public space, public nuisance, parking issues. But we need to connect, like point 9 and 2. We need to connect 6 and 11, 4 and 10. What happens? What happens there? The integration of the modes. How does someone from Chireka connect to Natet in terms of public transport? You are coming from Port Bell, you are going to Waise. How do you connect? Kawempe, you are going to Gaba. How do you connect? Remember, there is a trip from your home to the point of Gaba. There is also a trip from Kawempe to where you are going, the real point. That connectivity is not there. Let us stop hiding our faces in the sand. Look at the issues. We need to connect places, connect people, connect the system. It is not connected. That is the problem. You want to have this, we all want it, I want it. But before we connect these places, this one will not do what we want. How do I get there? Should matter. How do I get to that bus? Dar es Salaam has this running. And I think Kenya is already constructing the BRT corridor. We, under the Ministry of Works, I think we must have been told that it's coming. They are doing redesigning for it. Kampala Road, Chireka, Waise, and Zana. But these people, how will they get there to the bus lines? You can have measures like one-way traffic system, which we are doing with the Ginger, the Market Street area. And you don't have to demolish anything. you just reorganize the street space. Surely, do you need money for compensation? We are scared of trying out things because we front with fear. You must front with a vision, not with fear. So you have green introduced. Was there a tree on Loom Street before COVID-19? Was there ever a tree? There was no single tree on that street. Dubai was better than us. A desert. So what you see there is because we went with a vision and not with what? Yeah. With fear. It may sound like a church message, but actually we need it like that. You know, you need to do it. Then you have a cycle lane, which can be 2 meters, 3 meters. Why? You can say Kampala is hilly, but in a multimodality system, you map the network. You say, for example, from Pererwe to Luzira, where is a hill? From Pererwe to Luzira, how long is it? Who can estimate that distance? There is no single hill. The only steep area is from Rufura, where we buy meat from there, and you are going towards Bugolobi. That's the only steep hill. That gear number 1, done. But you can imagine how much traffic congestion you can experience. You are coming from Lugogo, going to Parliament, and you are looking at the New Vision area as a hill. You don't need to go there. Go to the other street. What is it called? First Street? Go left. Go to Rufura. You're at Parliament, no hill. That, they are professionals to do it. It's network, mapping, planning. From Bugolobi to Mbuya Hill, never invest a bicycle lane to that place. It's a bad investment. So that network, you bypass it. You go around Mutungo, you go towards Nakawa, Spear Motors. You get it? Those are excuses, please. Don't stop saying Kampala is hilly. We can't do multimodality with cycling, with trains, with what? No. We have very gentle slopes. So we need to think big and go to the streets and implement. Jermaine, I think you get always as excited when you see this. But there's a problem with it because it is standing alone. There is no multimodality. It's like it came from heaven and landed. Landed in the CBD. That is a problem because it is disconnected to the whole system, from the whole system. It disconnects people's accessibility needs, and there is no meaningful connection. Good start, but there's a problem with it. This also started very well because it was started by our College of Engineering, Cycle for Health. But it did not take off from one point to another. However, right now this project ended, but this place is always full of bicycles. So, which means there was demand, or demand was realized after the facility was provided for. So now, when you are thinking globally, look at Sustainable Development Goal number 11. That goal with multimodality, public transport, we shall not escape it. The car will never end the solutions of our accessibility or the problems of our accessibility. Never. Because, for example, the parking problem, there is no city in the world that has addressed it. Parking. The only way is to minimize the car use by improving public transport, improving multimodality, and encouraging people to shift. If we have 60% people walking now, we are going to lose them. Do you know that? Because they are not walking out of choice. They are walking because they are stranded. You should know that. Most of them. So it means that we need to look at this SDG number 11, but with cautiousness of the local context. What is the problem that we are trying to solve? Is it traffic congestion? I think this is what we are trying to solve in Kampala. Not so? Road safety, accessibility, is it air quality? Does anybody discuss it that much? It's like people say, I would rather die slowly, quietly. I take longer to die than die immediately. So nobody is discussing it that much. Is it noise pollution? You saw the residents of Golobi, they have been asked to leave because there are so many what? Bars on that street. So the bars have reclaimed the place. There's so much noise. Parking. Now, to solve this, you need the integration of the system. You will try to solve road safety. You will not solve air quality because you are introducing humps. Humps are okay. But why don't you make it car-free? Or you get out some types of vehicles. A child was knocked there on Buganda Road because she looked right. No, she looked left because it's one way. She looked left. The border came from the right. So which hump was going to protect that kid? So you need to just think about comprehensive solutions, land uses and transport. And don't focus so much on design. UNRA. I saw Edward here, Mr. Yarhang. UNRA, for example, good roads, everything, but it's beyond the design. It is about the process of engagement, the process of land use planning with the local governments. Let them know what is coming so that they know how to rearrange their plans. Education, what's your budget for sensitization? We take these things for granted. My brother-in-law came to Kampala, stepped in the grass, he was arrested. Because there in the village, it is okay, it is even nice, step and sit. So why did that happen? Because we are looking so much at the hardware. He even said there was no sign. I did not read any sign. So we need to look at the software, education, traffic police. We need you for enforcement, sensitization. So this is what has to be done as I end the presentation. Let's do sober infrastructure planning. On a serious note, we need the infrastructure, the coordination. It is not there right now. Land use planning to avoid unhealthy competition. Tomorrow I'll share with you what we are doing to make sure that that number 2 happens in the whole country. Now, we have a problem of working alone. It is killing us. The ministry can have something to do with public transport. KCCA can have theirs. Ministry of Local Government is saying theirs. This is a problem. Territorial boundaries. Yet the system of mobility has no territories, you know? It has to be continuous, so even the heads working on it have to work together. The linkage between land uses and accessibility. This is this one you know it. How do you come from Kisementi and you go to Buziga? Members, you tell me. Buziga to Kisementi. Is there a public transport line? So I don't get it when you are talking about the things like border exclusion zones. Education, enforcement. This enforcement has to happen. It may not happen with a gun, but it should happen. We can't set systems, infrastructure, and we let them go to waste because we have not enforced. We must do surveys. Doctor, we need surveys. We need statistics. How many people are connecting to this stage? How do they get there? And how do we introduce public transport to that? The network has to be comprehensive, not things like this from nowhere to nowhere. And then I ask you, my last slide is this. What do you see here? What do you see here? The bicycle rider maybe can tell us. I have no answer. What do you see here? This is very recent. This is how it looks like. It looks like a small Europe in Africa. But one question that comes to your mind when you see this, which one is it? Then I end here. Everybody is asking me one question about this. Where did they pass? Where did they pass? I thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope we can work together to connect our cities, not only Kampala, but the rest of the country.